And now, a math lesson. Let's say the Zaxby's chicken finger plate comes with 4, 5, or 6 hand-breaded fingers and 1 side of Zax sauce. Plus, you can try them with Zax sauce, honey mustard, hot honey mustard, tongue torch, teriyaki, wimpy, nuclear, barbecue ranch, sweet and spicy, insane. How many possible combinations does that make? Carry the 2 with the remainder... a lot. Zaxby's chicken finger plate. The sauceabilities are endless.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Azan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good. Check out all the great locations here in the greater Tallahassee area. They're on Mahan. They're on Appalachia. They're on Monroe. They're on Capitol Circle Southwest. They're on Thomasville. All main roads in Tallahassee. You'll find yourself a delicious Zaxby's location, as well as Douglas, Georgia, Marianna, Florida, and Thomasville, Georgia. So they got one on Thomasville Road in Florida and then one in Thomasville, Georgia. It's crazy, Corey. Crazy how that all works out. How you doing, friend of mine? Can I call you a friend of mine? I need something to lean on right now, Corey. It's dark times.
I think I'd call – how about friendly acquaintance?
Okay.
Friendly colleague. I don't know if we're so far as friends.
Okay.
But friendly – I think you've worked yourself up to like a work friend maybe.
Right.
That's always a different class of people, right?
Yeah.
When somebody said – I always thought it was weird, like, oh, he's a work friend. Well, that's a weird disclaimer. Does that mean he's not a real friend? So you're a work friend.
All right. Well, it's like, when you finally have that first, slumber party when you're a kid at your like friend's house, it's like a different sort of dynamic. Like when you're friends at school and then you actually hang out off the clock, if you will, and it's like, do I really like this dude? And then, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Correct, buddy.
Kind of like looking at this football team right now. Do I like this team? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Now it just seems like I don't. 41-17 loss to Pitt, a team that was slumping coming into the contest. Really nothing redeeming about this Florida State team at this juncture. Choppy waters ahead. Everything. We went from talking about how every game left on this schedule was eminently winnable to now probably will fall into the loss ledger for this program right now. I don't even know where to really begin, Corey. I guess let's begin at quarterback because that seemed to be something you can maybe hang your hat on, and then there seemed to be some hope and flashes of positivity over the last few weeks, even in some of these losses. I don't know if the coach has turned into a pumpkin now for Jordan Travis. I don't know if the Cinderella slipper is off his foot. He's injured, so it's not fair, I guess, maybe to characterize him that way. But it just seems like I don't know if it's being scouted. If you're starting to go up against maybe some better defensive-minded coaches that have a better idea of what to do. There's more stuff on tape of him. But if he can't finish out the season, and it's hard to think that he's not going to be healthy. He's not going to be anywhere near the amount of sort of health and wellness he needs to be to perform the way he did against North Carolina and Notre Dame. And that just makes the rest of the season feel so bleak. And then who knows even where you go, in 2021 because Chubba doesn't look ready. Maybe not fair either because the offensive line was back to their turnstile ways. But, again, just offensively, quarterback position, lots of doom and gloom there from your boy right now.
Yeah, I'm still, what are we now, 2 days removed from it, and I'm still having a hard time kind of rationalizing it.
Yeah.
Pitt's okay. They're better than their record. I think if the quarterback had played against Notre Dame, they don't lose by 42 points, but they don't win that game. And if he'd have played against Miami, maybe it's different, but he didn't. And they weren't crushing people when he did play. So to lose by, and I know it's not really home games, but to just lose 41-17 on your home soil to a mediocre team, there's no excuse for it. There just isn't. And I thought the defense played as well as we'd hoped it would, right? They didn't give up huge chunk plays, really. Almost every touchdown Pitt got was because of the offense. The Pitt offense scored 34 points, and they scored, I don't know, it feels like 28 of those other points by getting the ball on the other side of the 50. James Blackman handed them a touchdown.
Yeah.
Then they got, you went for it a couple of times and didn't get it. A bad punt and a punt return to the 40. I think they had 3 or 4 scoring drives that started in your territory. Meanwhile, your punt returners just won't go catch a punt. Because why save the team 15 yards when the offense is humming like that? No, like you said, there's nothing really redeeming. The special teams were No, they weren't. They were bad. I mean, awesome that Grohouse made that kick. That was a big-time kick. Yeah. But the kick returns are non-existent. There's nothing to hang your hat on there. The punt returners won't go make a play. That Pitt guy catches a ball and advances the ball forward. Florida State's guys always fair catch or run away from it. Always. I don't know that they've had a punt return this year. And I know the guys are kicking it high, but get somebody in there that's not afraid to catch a ball and make a play. But that's their least of their worries. Offensively, this was really the first time, and you could probably tell if you read my column. I hope you do, Aslan.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the listener, but if you haven't read my column, go read it. I think this was the first time you could tell if you read my column that I had a real problem with the game plan. Like, sometimes you just say, look, you can't block a team. You have James Blackman at quarterback. What are you going to do? Jordan Travis is hurt. What are you going to do? Well, Jordan Travis wasn't that hurt in the first half, and you still had him throwing all the time. It just didn't make – like, Mike Norvell talks about wanting to put these guys in the position to succeed. We're going to keep trying to get these guys in the best position to succeed. Well, the offensive coaching staff failed on that front on Saturday. You were facing a defensive line that you could not block, and it was obvious. The only way you were going to move the ball is with your quarterback's legs on the zone read. I think you scored your first 2 drives, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know one was one play, but you scored by doing the zone reads and either popping out real quick for little short passes or running the ball. And then Jordan Travis busts an 88-yard run, and I promise you, folks, I don't think he kept the ball in his own read after that. What sense does that make? It's too good? It works too well? Like, why would the only playmaker you have on your team, other than number 5, it would appear, and maybe 8, is Jordan Travis. And you completely eliminated him by not sticking with what works. And I don't understand it. I know a lot of these are RPOs. I know how that works. It's a numbers game, and the quarterback decides based on the numbers if I'm gonna keep it, I'm gonna pull it, or I'm gonna throw it. Well, take the O away at some point and say, look, man, we can't have this guy throwing the ball 25, 28 times a half. We can't. And they ended up running 26, 25 pass plays in the first half with Jordan Travis, and he got hurt on a passing play. Rolling to his right on 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 8. You can still run the ball on 3rd and 6. You can do a quarterback draw on 3rd and 6. But I was really disappointed the first half of the game plan. It just didn't make sense that I don't know what they had in the first half, but I feel like Webb and Corbin in the first half had like 8 carries. They should have 80 carries. They should have 22 carries. That's the offense. Take a shot over the top with Terry. Quit giving me these ridiculous wide receiver screens that never work, ever. Ever. Quit doing it. Don't even have that as an option. It does not work. You cannot block it up. Your offensive line can block a little bit when you run the ball. So do that. That wide receiver screen should be punted into the sun. Nobody on the team can catch a ball and make somebody miss, and certainly nobody can hold a block long enough for it to matter. So I just don't understand why with that you had 2 weeks to prepare, that you go right down the field the first 2 drives. One, again, was a huge chunk play, kind of a fluky play, but it's not real fluky because it's a quarterback that's what he does. And then the rest of the half, you rode his right arm in that offensive line that could not block that defense. It boggles the mind. The game was lost in the first half. The second half, because the game was lost when Jordan Travis took an unneeded shot rolling out on yet another pass play. And that's when you lost the game. I mean, kudos to him for sticking with it and hanging in there after he got hurt. But man, I'm to the point, he didn't even come out of the locker room, did he?
Yeah, he was in street clothes though.
Oh, they did show him.
Yeah.
Okay, I never even saw him. I didn't know he came out. So I mean, you're in street clothes in the second half of what was a close game. I mean, that doesn't bode well for next week, does it?
No.
And I'm to the point where it's like I can't keep asking them how he's, you can't keep asking Norvell, how's Travis?
Well, he's obviously working through some. Whatever hindered him in the fall that made him miss 3/4 of fall camp and made him the third option, basically going to that Jacksonville State game, is clearly not going away.
But do you think it's just a re-injury, or do you think it's a new injury?
So. No, I think it's whatever he has been exacerbated. I'm telling you, man, if you go back and you watch that Georgia Tech game, the first series, I think the first series he comes in, you see him running off the field with his left arm dangling. And I think it's continued just to bother him this entire season. I think when he got tackled on that rollout you're talking about, he winced really hard. Like you could see on the TV feed, he winced like extremely hard, and then that was kind of a wrap for him. So
and so it's going to come across as like he's injury prone. But Aslan's right. It might just be the one he had the hand against Notre Dame, but other than that, it's probably just the same injury getting hurt. It's the same injury coming back because he keeps getting hit on it. So I don't want it to sound like the kid can't. He's not tough.
Yeah, we're not trying to. Yeah.
We're not saying that, but it's an injury that he can't play through. It would seem one bad hit and he's out for the rest of the game. It's almost to the point where it's like, are you going to do this for the next 4 games? One of them being Clemson, or are you just going to say that's a wrap? Go get better, Jordan. Maybe you can get better for the bowl game, but we can't. You can't just keep doing this, like hoping that your quarterback doesn't take a hit, because your whole offense is his legs. That's it, right? Yeah. There's nothing else this offense does other than you think about what was their other touchdown in the Louisville game? Oh, it was a throw. It was a rollout throw. So
to the pokey.
So 2 of their last 4 touchdowns, they've only scored 4 touchdowns against 2 of the worst teams in the conference the last 2 weeks. Or the last 2 weeks they've scored 2 games, they've scored 4 touchdowns. One of them was Jordan Travis crossing over, dribbling the ball to himself. An incredible play. Right. And the other one was an 88-yard run by Jordan Travis. Other than that, your offense has done jack squat, essentially, through 2 whole games. So what's it going to look like without his freakish ability to make things happen on the ground? It does not bode well. And that's what, if you're trying to protect him, and that's why you're not running him as much, I guess, that to me, it's just you got to play him. He's got to play the way he's going to play, and I can't fathom why. Again, he was healthy enough to run 88 yards, and he ran some plays before that. He even ran on that play. So he's a competitor, man. God love him, he is a competitor. Like he's not feeling great, even off that after he took that huge hit. I think he still had some runs. Yeah. So he's a competitor, but he's hurt. And if your whole offense is a hobbled, winged quarterback that can't take a hit on one side or he's going to miss the rest of the game, you got a bad offense. And that's what this is right now, is a very, very bad offense.
And I think that's kind of what we saw at Chubba, when I asked him after the game. They obviously he's run a certain set amount of plays during practice, but there's only so many that he really has down pat. And then he said that there's other stuff that they ran in the course of that game was stuff that they thought he would fit into his skill set, but I think it was stuff that he's not all that familiar with because he was just running for his life every single time. Right. The offensive line obviously didn't help, but still, I don't know how much of confidence really was there. But to your point, though, in terms of balance in the first half, they literally ran the ball 13 times in the first quarter, and then also ran it 13 times in the second quarter, and then had 9 passing attempts in the first quarter, and then 9 passing attempts in the second quarter. Kind of crazy how that worked out.
It was the exact same each quarter?
Yeah. But they
also understand, though, how many of those
the second quarter was 13 rushes for -5 yards.
But but again, those were sacks. Those were sacks.
Right.
5 of those are sacks. Another one is a tackle for those were designed pass plays that turned into rushes because they couldn't block. No. But that's the difference. That sounds like, well, they didn't change anything. Well, we all watched the game. Yeah. They stopped running the offense. They stopped running the ball. If they stop you and it's 2nd and 8, run it again. Or take a shot to Terry. You took 2 deep shots to Terry. One, he threw it too quickly because he knew he figured he was about to get hit, and he didn't give Terry a chance. The other time you got a pass interference. And that was the only 2 shots you took with Terry the whole game. It just that doesn't make sense. They were playing, for the folks that couldn't see it on TV, it was straight up no safety help, man-to-man. You just got to take shots, man. If you're going to throw it. But I didn't understand the whole. Jordan Travis really should never get sacked on any down but third down. And even then, it should be a 1 read and then run it. One read, and if he ain't open, run. Or at least sprint to the right. Get out of harm's way. Move the pocket. It was it was like they didn't know what offensive line they had. And we've complimented the offensive line. I do think it's gotten better. It certainly didn't help that Devontae Love-Taylor went down. That was a huge moment in that game that we didn't really take into account because they still moved down the field the first 2 plays, our first 2 drives. But that was a huge moment when Devontae Love-Taylor went out. But you couldn't block those guys. And so why is not every pass rolling to the right or rolling to the left and getting him on the run? Instead of just taking a snap, dropping back, and looking. I'm not saying he can't be that guy, because he could be that guy. Maybe, someday soon. But he's not that guy now, and you got to coach to your strengths. And your strength isn't, hey, Jordan, scan the pocket. We're going to give you plenty of time. Look, you got all this perfect pocket to work from. No, it was getting crushed every play. They were bringing 6 every play. Yeah. Beat them out to wide with the quarterback's legs. It boggled the mind. But look, there's a lot bigger problems on this offense or on this football team than a game plan. I just thought this, for me anyway, this was the first time that I thought the coaching staff on that side of the ball completely let down the team. Because it just, they did not run the ball 13 times in the second quarter. They called half of those they called probably 5 runs in the second quarter. Probably 4 or 5 design runs. Everything else was Jordan scrambling for his life. That's absurd against that defense. You were in the game. You were winning the game. Why not just straight up zone read every play? Jordan did not keep the ball after an 88-yard run. Do you think Pitt was happy about that?
Right.
You think that linebacker that got dropped to a knee and tackled air on that ridiculous run was happy that he was never put in that situation again? That's like, at some point you're like, you say you have to be an offensive coordinator that says, I don't care what you read, Jordan. They can't tackle you out wide. Pull it and run. But just do it twice a quarter.
Though, doesn't some of this come back, and we're kind of, I don't want to go in circles on this, but it comes back to his health. Like they realize they have to be judicious with him keeping the ball and
I would say that, except for all the vicious hits he took because they can't block and he was getting sacked. And that was the point I want to make. So Jimbo used to always talk about he was never afraid to run his quarterbacks because the quarterback running is less likely to get hurt than a quarterback getting sacked from behind. If a quarterback knows where he's going, he can lower his shoulder, he can protect himself, he can get out of bounds on a designed run. He had no problem doing quarterback sweeps with a first-round pick and Ponder, and with Jameis occasionally. He had no problem with that because they dictate the hit, and they can avoid the hit because they see the hit. Well, what play did Travis get essentially knocked out of the game on? A blindside hit.
Yeah.
On a pass play. So that I get that point, and you can say, okay, you can't run it. You can't run him 25 times. Well, you can if he's smart about it, which he would be. But he got hit on another pass play. So anyway, I just that bothered me a lot. I still can't fathom that, and I can't fathom the whole game plan with Purdy. Hey, Chubba, we know you just watched Jordan Travis get basically taken out on a stretcher. You saw the chalk out line after that. He got sacked 5 times in the second quarter. And then you saw the experienced guy throw a terrible pick. We're going to put you in the game, and hey, buddy, just sling it around. Just drop back. We know you don't have any experience. You've never completed a pass in college. Just drop back and sling it around. We're going to call about 27, 28 passes this half against a defense that's got its ears pinned back, that's always going to bring 5 or 6 guys. And if they only brought 2, we couldn't block them anyway. But good luck, man. Sling it around, go through your progressions. I mean, that didn't make sense either. They didn't give him a chance at all to succeed and build confidence. Anyway, but the roster isn't very good. It wouldn't have mattered how they coached, probably. They were going to lose that game. They just got blown out by two of the worst teams in the ACC. Let's just call the season what it is, a training season for 2021.
Well, I guess that kind of goes back to your point about the game plan. I guess maybe it's just maybe kind of trying to take a more macro look at the season now as we are, 7 games into it now? Is that you go another half without scoring any points. Obviously, a lot of that is based on the fact that you had to go to, a true freshman quarterback who wasn't able to practice all that much this preseason. But the decision to go with your quarterback who's all but cooked was a bit dubious to put James Blackman in there. And in your column, you kind of make the point of, I get it. You said you wanted to give the team a spark. But, if you did, then why'd you kind of tuck and run so quickly on that? It goes back to not being able to score points against Louisville. They were able to hang on and beat North Carolina. The decision to put Kentron Portier out there on a pretty crucial third down, and you throw an interception because there was some sort of miscommunication, you still don't have any idea of kind of what you don't have like a set rotation. You still you're piecemealing and bringing all these players in who, quite frankly, we can talk about how flawed this roster is. And I understand you want to get these true freshmen some experience, but none of them are dynamic enough. None of these guys are game breakers to where I think it's worth it to put them in positions in games that are still contested to see what they're made of. That's not the time to do it. Like, just, again, roll with Terry, roll with Pokey, roll with Keyshawn. I know they're not giving you what you need, but you kind of, at least the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. Just these little sort of moments in games, he's making these decisions are starting to kind of accumulate and give me a little bit of pause. To your point, though, again, this season, nothing he's going to do this year is going to cause him to lose his job 3 years from now, I don't think. But, man, he's on probation right now. This staff's on probation. If you grade them out, really the North Carolina game was 2 quarters. Even we can talk about Jordan Travis transformed the way this team is. It was a quarter and a half they really played well against Jacksonville State. Maybe a half against Notre Dame. It was a half against North Carolina, a quarter against Louisville, a quarter against Pitt. They haven't done anything close to put together an entire 60 minutes. Nothing even close, not even remotely close. And now they're getting blown out by teams that are bottom of the pack in this conference, which the previous guy, the bar is low, but at least, he got waxed by Clemson and Notre Dame. But, man, he beat Louisville. He would beat NC State. He didn't get run off the field in Scott Field against a ranked Virginia team. And I don't know what's happening right now with them trying to build off what they did against North Carolina, but it's all gone. They're not better in November. They're worse than they were against Georgia Tech. And Ira made the point in your wrap-up that, hey, what you're seeing without Jordan Travis is dynamic players, what you saw in those first 2 games without him against Miami and Georgia Tech, to which I say, okay, but yeah, man, you're 7 weeks removed from those games. Where is the improvement on anything in your offense? There isn't.
No, there isn't. And the going back to the initial point about Blackman, made no sense at the time. Just made no sense to do that unless. Well, here's 2 things. So maybe he was getting the second team reps, whatever that even entails. We don't get to watch practice, so we don't know what the second team reps look like. I don't know how often James Blackman is working with the ones, if at all, or if he's on another field. Who knows? But I don't know who the second team quarterback was all week. I guess it was James Blackman for some reason, which we talked about this last week. That didn't make any sense. It just didn't. There's you can't run one offense for one quarterback and one offense for the next one because you're not good at either one. You can't divvy it up that much. You need to run zone read. You need to run with a mobile quarterback. That's the only way this thing's going to work this year. Blackman doesn't give you that. So you put him in, and part of me is like, okay, I get it. You're only down a touchdown. Maybe it's the moment. You worry about the moment being too big for Chubba. Sure. But then you throw 2 of the first 3 plays. You run it once on a zone read that Blackman's not. If Blackman had pulled it on the zone read and gotten 7 yards, maybe something different. Who knows? But he didn't. So and then you throw twice, 2 terrible throws, one that just terrible reads, and then obviously the second throw was intercepted. And then, but if you're willing, so 2 things. If you're willing to play Chubba down 31-17 with 13 minutes to go in the second half, third quarter, then why aren't you willing to play him 24-17 to start the third quarter? Right. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And if you're gunning to go with James Blackman because you think he gives you the best chance to win, what in the world are you doing and pulling him after 2 throws? If you genuinely thought, like if you have conviction, James is our guy. James has to be our guy for us to win this game. Okay, so he got 2 throws and he's done? Now, look, obviously, it would have made no sense to put him back in after. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand the conviction either way. Like, so 2 throws and we're done? Like, if that's the case, then nobody on your team ever gets to play again because they've all made mistakes and they get run right back out there. So that was weird to me. Like, you put them in just long enough to essentially lose the game for you, right, and then not put them back in. Right? Like that just, it reminded me of like a manager that will go to a relief pitcher that's struggling in a 7-1 game or something. He goes out and he gives up 2 straight doubles and then you take him out. And it's like, well, what was this for? Are you either going to let him work it out or not? And again, I'm not advocating that James Blackman should have gotten another series. I understand why he didn't. We all understand why he didn't. What I don't understand is why he was out there in the first place. And if he was out there in the first place, it's because you, head coach, told your team at halftime by putting James Blackman in the game that he's your guy and he gives you the best chance to win. And then after 2 plays, you said, nope, that's not happening. So, if Norvell got pulled after 2 bad play calls, who would be on the headset? I mean, so you either give him a little leeway or you don't put him in the game. But my bigger problem was even putting him in the game. That sounds like, I know I'm talking on both sides of my mouth, but it just made no sense to put him in the game. He is a broken, done quarterback. And why did you do that to him? Why did you have to see it again to finally make that call? You had seen it he's been on your roster now for 8 weeks. You knew he was not going to get that job done. So why even put him in that position in the first place? Nothing he did surprised any of us. That did not surprise any of us. And frankly, with that pass rush, he wasn't going to be able to make anything happen anyway. So
another
lot of bizarre bad decisions. Look, the game plan didn't lose them the game. There were a lot of factors into it. The preparation, the defense, again, was still the defense, blah, blah, blah. But it just... like I'm saying, I guess the James Blackman decision, they weren't going to win that game if Chubba had started the second half, right? Like, obviously, he got 5 series. They didn't do anything.
Nothing.
So that one series wasn't going to be the...
12 completions, 38 yards.
So at some point, though, it's like, man, I get it. I get why there are excuses. The offensive line was getting worked. You don't have great wideouts. Your quarterback is a true freshman.
You got a great wideout, though.
You're right. But that's what I'm saying is like you have some built-in excuses. We all understand that. At the same time, that's embarrassing. Those guys should be embarrassed. That coaching staff should be embarrassed. 12 completions for what? 31 yards?
38 for Chubba. 12 of 21 for 38 yards.
You throw 21 passes and you get 38 yards out of it? That's embarrassing against a team that's daring you to take shots. But you haven't coached your freshman phenom enough to even be willing to take a shot. The deepest ball he threw was right into the belly of a safety. Like that, he never even took a shot. It was all that BS quick pass to a wideout where they can't block him. Like, number one, I thought they should have. They threw the ball too much. It became obvious.
Corey's being right. Chubba literally only threw 1 ball that was 10 or more yards down the field, and it was the pick.
So look, if all the Pitt defenders knew was that we're going to get pressure on them quick, stay up on our men, and don't give them a window. And when they catch it, tackle him because he's not going to throw it more than 5 yards downfield. What were you working on all week? And what were you working on all week?
Nothing new. Just going over the fundamentals.
So does Chubba? What kind of practice time does Chubba get? Like how involved is he? How prepared is he? It just, to me, once they got down by 2 scores, like right when he got in the game, Jimbo used to do this, and it drove me crazy. They would get down by 10 or 11 points in the third quarter. It's like, well, we were behind, so we had to throw it more. It's like, no, man. College football, you can run 40 plays and a half. You can run 50 plays and a half. You don't have to throw it just because you're down 2 scores. You don't have to throw it every drive or every play. You don't. But telling those Pitt defenders, we're just going to throw it every play with a true freshman quarterback in that offensive line, it was mind-boggling. Just run the offense. Give him a chance to run the offense because he might have to run it the rest of the year. And I want to see how he runs the zone read. And they didn't do that at all. Just pass, short pass here, short pass there, short pass here, 7-yard loss here, sack. I'm going to get flipped out of bounds like a helicopter. That was the offense in the second half.
How much of it, though, I mean, this is more rhetorical, I guess, than anything. It's just, again, Pitt did have the number 1 rushing defense in the nation coming into the game. So, and Pitt's played good teams.
How were they doing? How were they doing after 2 drives?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you
trust your strength.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you just say, like, it's, you have to have confidence in what you do. And after two drives, Florida State had like 140 yards rushing. They had more. Jordan Travis had more yards on one play than Pitt usually gives up. So you can say, yeah, we know you stopped those other offenses. You haven't seen anything like this. You haven't placed and that's the truth. You haven't faced a quarterback that can run like this. And Jashawn Corbin actually looked like he had a little burst in that game.
Yeah.
LaDamian Webb was kind of a non-factor for some reason, but you have a 2-headed tailback that should be 3-headed. They don't put Toafili in there at all. I don't know if it's because they don't like the Seagull moniker, and they're really hard pressed to keep that out of the Florida State, the Seminole Nation from saying that all the time. But I don't know what the deal is there. But the Toafili can't get any touches. But you have a running attack that what did Clemson? I know Clemson scored a bunch of points. How many yards they rushed for against Notre Dame? You know the answer to that?
I don't know, but their quarterback lit them up, man. He had to go over 300 yards.
He had 400 yards.
Yeah.
But Etienne had like 38 yards rushing. I think they had 42 as a team, something like that. Florida State had over 204. Florida State had like 200 yards rushing against Notre Dame.
All right.
Notre Dame doesn't give up 200 yards rushing. They had 240 yards in 3 of their last 4 games, 240 or more. I think maybe they had 240 against Notre Dame. But so don't just say, "Oh, Pitt's got a good rushing defense, so we can't run against them." You were doing it, and then you completely went away from it. 3rd and 8, you're going to call a stop route to a true freshman wide receiver who turns the wrong way for a pick? Why aren't you just running it there? Anyway, sorry, I'm still in such a bad mood. I really thought this season had turned around, folks. I thought the coach had them on the right path. That North Carolina win was inspirational. You thought it was going to turn the tide. I'm not being cliche. You really thought that?
I did, yeah.
They had played well against Notre Dame. They were in a game in the 4th quarter against Notre Dame, who just beat Clemson, and then they beat North Carolina. And you're like, okay, things are turning around. And then they fell into a pit of despair. What have the last 2 weeks been? I can't even do the math. 33 to what? 100? 98? Like what did 87 to 33?
88, I think was it 40? They 47 points did Louisville put up? I don't even remember.
Yeah, who can keep track of these big scores? I don't know. It was in the 40s.
So Florida State had 290 yards of total offense against Pitt, and they had 170 yards in their first 2 drives. So, they had 14 total drives. Right? So their next 12 drives went for 120 yards.
Yeah, that sums it up.
They got 10 yards a drive after that.
And what were they doing on the drive? They were in the zone read. They were running the ball. The quarterback was keeping the ball. And then it was just, let's get away from that. Let's not let our running backs be a factor at all. The only way you're going to slow down that rush is to do exactly what you did the first 2 drives. I don't think Jordan Travis was touched the first 2 drives. Like maybe literally. Like I know he wasn't touched on his 88-yard run. And then after that, it was running for his life. And if it's 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 7, roll him out and be done with it. Quit dropping back and think he's going to scan it's got to be something quick, especially against that defense. But anyway, there were a lot of head shaking. I just what concerns me isn't even the loss. It's again because we know what this season is now. It's the ineptitude of everything in the final 3 quarters. Nothing was good. Nothing looked like it was coached. And it looked a lot like the entire game against Virginia Tech 2 years ago, the entire Miami game last year, the entire Miami game this year.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
I mean, it's not, you can't excuse it by saying this and that. Yeah. But I will say this, you have some problems here. Like you have some problems.
Yeah, but
that doesn't mean that you don't have good coaches.
Well, yeah, but you got to assess what you have and figure out a better way, man. You just
right. But this season's done. So what I'm saying is this does not mean, like you said, this does not mean that 2022 isn't going to be much better. It just means that 2020 is a joke of a team. I don't know how else to describe it.
How are you marketing this? Like, how are you going to get this whole churning the roster thing? Nobody's gotten better from churning the roster. Like Nick Saban in Alabama, it wasn't churning the roster. Year 2, he's playing for the SEC championship game. Dan Mullen, it's not churning the roster. Kirby Smart, it wasn't churning the roster. This whole churning the roster thing, everybody, like it sounds great. It's the whole thing. I was hoping like Chubba Purdy, true freshman quarterback, comes in and lights your team on fire. That's more practical than like churning the roster. It's just not going to happen that way. They haven't found out a way now through 7 games coming off a bye week to figure out a way to make this offense move in the second half. Now, you can say it's not fair because they didn't have Jordan Travis. But I mean, there's 2 parts in this game that really kind of stuck with me. And it was James Blackman's pick because they dropped into zone and like they knew it was going to Terry. And the safeties just went right to the spot where Terry was going to stop his route and the ball was going to get delivered, and it was a total pick. Like they knew, Blackman's going to go in. It's a passing situation. He's going to look for 5. This is exactly what you need to do. First play that Chubba came in, literally the cornerback is like looking at the defensive end that's like getting ready to rush the passer. He's like literally pointing it at Pokey like, hey, it's going to go to him. Like they're definitely throwing it. It's coming this way. I've got him. And sure enough, Purdy takes the snap, and the first thing he's looking at is to his left at Pokey. Like they're not. There's no like the confusion, like keeping teams off balance, keeping defenses guessing. That is like non-existent after the first drive of these games.
I agree.
And I don't know how much of that, again, goes to them not being able to install as much of their offense as they wanted to. But, again, man, you had a whole off week. Like, there has to be some plan B, C's, and D's, and just they can't deviate off things. And that's the concerning thing to me right now.
Here's, though, what should give Florida State fans hope. And I know I've been basically ranting at you for whatever it's been, 35 minutes. I'm getting hoarse. My throat is getting sore. I didn't realize I was this mad.
I like it, Corey. I like it.
But what should give you guys a little bit of encouragement or hope is that, buddy, the first drives of these games are clockwork.
Dude, the touchdown to the
Rector.
What a great little play call. Beautiful.
They had a lot of cool play calls. They had a lot of things, and they worked off things that they knew they had been scouted against, and they really blitzed Pitt early. And then the talent disparity on the line of scrimmage took over the game. But early on, in every game they've played, I guess, right? Yeah, literally every game they've played, they've marched down the field, except maybe the Jacksonville State game, and really had impressive drives and impressive play calls. And they do keep defenses off balance. And my point being there, that's the stuff they rep the most. That's the stuff that their players feel comfortable with the most. And it gets worked to almost perfection. They really do a good job of executing it. So if you extrapolate that into a full offseason, in a full preseason, with I guess a starting unit that you know who it's going to be, and a quarterback that you know who it's going to be, that should bode well. This guy knows how to call an offense. These guys know what they're doing offensively. They can put together, 15 plays, 18 plays? They do a really good job of that. Nobody could argue that. Yeah. Well, they didn't get a chance to really install any of this in the spring. So maybe, just maybe, if they had installed everything they wanted to, and these guys were comfortable enough with it, because they would have gotten they wouldn't have missed 7 months of basically trying to install it or learn it, not on Zoom. This is what the offense can look on every drive when the players running it are comfortable with it. Remember, they're comfortable with those first 2 drives because they rep it all the time. Well, if they've repped everything in the arsenal over and over and over again throughout a spring and throughout a preseason practice and throughout off-season conditioning, everything else they're able to. I know they're not supposed to. They don't run plays in off-season conditioning, but the 7-on-7 stuff they can do in the summer, if they're able to rep that stuff over and over and over again, well, they will be good at that too, theoretically, right? Because they look like aces. They look like the best offense in the country coming out of these games.
But here's the thing, man. Like in 2018, when they played UCF twice, I think that was the year that the UCF, well, it was the year coming off their national championship, so they had a little bit of a hangover. In the AAC championship game, Memphis scored 41 points in that game, but 38 of it was in the first half. They only scored 3 points in the second half. And in their regular season matchup, Memphis scored 30 points, and they scored all 30 in the first half. They got shut out in the second half. Like, that's why I'm getting concerned, is because when they had everything rolling at Memphis and they played in big-time games. I know we're so far away from Florida State playing in a big-time game these days that has, like, conference implications. I just wonder, like, if there's something about what they do that just they are not very – you want to talk about adversity. That was the weird thing about that broadcast. You weren't watching because you were at the stadium, Corey. But there's like 2 allegories, like, anecdotal stories that Wes Durham was telling the people at home. And one of them was literally Norvell was telling him, like, yeah, this team needs to face as much adversity as possible. So, this team maybe just needs to keep getting punched in the mouth to toughen up, okay? Then he also said that this team needs to, like, hit bottom to eventually get to where they want to go. And it's like, well, hey, man, like, you're getting hit with adversity as a coaching staff. Like, how are you bouncing back? Like, I mean, how many more halves of not scoring points in the second half do you need to endure before you're going to figure out a way to have a second half offense? Like, it's just everything is so bleak right now. And I'm trying to cling on to the good things that have happened. And it just gets me back into this whole, like, negative tailspin of, all right, then how are you going to market this? Or you want to churn the roster, everybody? Who are you going to recruit? Who's going to want to come here? Like, what prep kid's going to want to come here? I mean, maybe you still
don't need prep kids. You need linebackers from other colleges.
You need those grad transfers. But I mean, there's going to be a lot of programs that are going to want guys to come help them out, man. And just it's such a bummer because, again, to your point, man, I felt like North Carolina something turned because you've been getting better. There was steady progression, and now you've regressed, just terribly in 2 games. I mean, it's really just falls from grace. And, maybe if your defense is fully healthy, some of these things don't happen. Maybe if Jordan Travis isn't banged up, these things don't happen. So we do have to kind of take some of the stuff with a grain of salt. But, again, man, just I don't know. I'm like really upset now, man. I don't know. The last 2 seasons, I don't know. I thought I kind of got numb to it. I'd become like an objective journalist with a lowercase j or whatever. But, man, like, this sucks. This is like, I'm not excited to wake up and, like, interview what am I going to ask Mike Norvell on Monday at noon? What am I going to ask him? Everyone's ask him tough questions. Like, what do you want me to ask him? Like, really? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, why are y'all so bad? That could be the answer. Yeah, or that could be the question. Yeah, look, we all see it. I would push back a little on the second halves of Memphis, just to point out you could handpick anybody's resume and find those. Like, he wouldn't be at Florida State if that was a constant problem, because they wouldn't have won as many games as they did. Like, their offense, they led the nation in scoring, right, last year or 2 years ago, or were top 3 or 4. So that you can't lead the nation in scoring if you're only scoring in one half.
Well, you scored 41 points in a game, and you put 38 in the first half.
That happens. I mean, 41. Hey, Jimbo scored 16 in the first half up in Raleigh one October night, and I remember that goose egg.
Still hurt.
I remember that.
Hurt?
Buddy, I think if you polled Florida State fans, that's still the feeling they had after that game has to be one of the top 5 angriest they've ever been in their lives. Yeah. Like 80% of Florida State fans will be, yeah. A guy cut me off in traffic and I spun into a truck and I barely survived. Oh, and blowing a 16-point lead at Raleigh with the number 3 team in the country and like 40 NFL players on it. That's number 2. Yeah, that one. Norvell has shown a history. Obviously, you don't win games by just winning one half. They know what they're doing offensively, but I understand that criticism, and I understand the criticism of this offense because in the coaching staff, it has taken a huge step back. And it's regressed to almost 2018, this offense. And you ask yourself, okay, what's it going to look like with Jordan Travis? And why is this offense so dependent on this kid? Nobody else is a playmaker? You can't draw up anything for anybody else other than Jordan, go make guys look silly until you land on your shoulder wrong? Like, that's it? That's what you got? But I shouldn't say that because those first 2 drives, they incorporate a lot of dudes. There were good plays. The first drive against Louisville, 30-yard pass to Cam McDonald right out of the gate. They've had good plays.
Yeah.
And good drives.
Absolutely.
And then it just devolves, and it's like it devolves into the stuff they haven't been able to rep as much. They're not as comfortable in, and the quarterbacks don't run as well. And run as well, like, they don't run those plays as well. And that's and they're not as comfortable in it. And now you've got 4 weeks of this because Chubba might be your quarterback for the next 4 weeks. How comfortable is he going to be with anything? And so they don't get a pass. I don't want to term it as that. They don't get a pass. Willie wouldn't be if Willie's team right now was if Willie had stayed and his team right now was 2-5, it had just gotten blown out these last. Buddy, we would all be screaming from the rooftops. This is ridiculous. How does he still have a job? Now, That being said, this is a new roster and a new staff and a new scheme, and there is a pandemic going on. There are logical reasons and understandable excuses for why it's this bad. Well, no, there's not. There's logical reasons and understandable excuses for why it's bad, why this team hasn't taken a great leap. But there's nothing that it defies belief that this team is getting blown out by such bad teams. It just defies belief. You cannot convince me. I'm sorry. I watch these games too. I understand. You can't convince me Pitt has that much more talent than Florida State.
Absolutely not, no.
Or Louisville. You can't convince me of that. Because I saw what Florida State did
and don't
to
say,
Notre
don't
Dame's
say
defense.
culture either, because Louisville's culture was terrible, man, with Bobby Petrino. They're only
I do think, though, this is something we got to get our minds around. So when you go to Louisville, you're not. Let me rephrase. When you go to Boston College, when you're recruited by Boston College, you're not going to Boston College thinking you're going to go to the NFL. You're not going to Boston College thinking, man, I'm doing Boston College. You're just happy that you're going to Boston College. You're happy somebody wanted you. Like it's Boston College or it's Tulane or it's these other schools. You don't feel nearly as entitled. That is something. At a place like Florida State, these guys all think, number one, that they're doing Florida State a favor by coming, and also that they're going to the league. What's Florida State going to do for me to get me to the league? The Boston College kids just play hard. That's what they do. They're not in the Florida State players. I mean, their best players are wearing sweatpants. What's Marvin Wilson's injury? Is Hampson coming back? I'm not even asking anymore. He's not. So what's going on there? Why is Warren Thompson sitting 40 yards from everyone else, just standing there, dressed up, just standing there, not involved with anyone, standing by himself while the offense, the other 40 players on the offense are 40 yards away? That to me is culture. Maybe not the Marvin. I shouldn't throw Marvin in there.
You stood by Warren Thompson's side. Then I guess at what point do you cut bait with him then?
Yeah, I mean,
it's your fault then.
The problem is Warren Thompson wants to make it painfully obvious to everyone that he's upset. Not cheering anybody on, not in the huddle, not wanting to know what play is being run, just off to the side sulking. And I don't know if he's even healthy enough to play. But again, that's the stuff I'm talking about. Maybe that stuff happens at Boston College, but kids at Boston College don't think they're too good for Boston College. I'm too good for this. And that's a problem you really have. So at Florida State, it's almost like you have to like, I don't know. I don't even want to say it. It's almost like you have to go get these 2- and 3-star kids that are excited that they're at Florida State. Go get a bunch of, well, I was going to say Keyshawn Heltons. That's probably not the best,
you got
best
Malcolm
example
Ring.
to use.
you got Malcolm Ray, a guy that was under-recruited, Dade County Player of the Year, but like, I mean, come on, Malcolm Ray's not your answer. I mean, he's an under-recruited 2-star, 3-star, going to come in and work really hard. That works like with your offensive lineman, but like your skill players probably not.
It's hard, and we're talking this out, folks. We're talking this out. We don't have the answers, or we'd be running the show at Florida State. But like, you tell me, what would 2019 Memphis have done these last 2 weeks? Do you think they beat Louisville?
What do you mean, like the 2019 Memphis team had played these particular teams
Yes.
on the schedule?
Or what would their record be in these 7 games? 5-2?
I haven't watched enough of them, man. I mean, they lost to Temple. I mean, they lost the game last year.
Do you think they'd score more than 11 points in the second half in 7 games?
I would think so.
Yeah. Like, you know, that team would beat the brakes off this Florida State team. The brakes off them. They would put 50 up on them, maybe 60. And so he has been able to produce these types of teams. But why would those Memphis kids who don't have as much talent, top to bottom, as this Florida State team, why would they not get blown out by Pitt? I'm almost wanting to like do a live show right now. I want people to come up with theories, because my theory is these players think they're better than they are. They're high level recruits that don't win, that perform substandard. Some of them, half the roster is 4-star kids, and don't care anymore.
I know he faded late in his tenure, but do you think Jimbo would allow kids to have that kind of mentality? Like, do you think high-level, high-performing coaches at the Power 5 level would allow like complacency and entitlement to continue to permeate?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
A season?
It's a good question. It's hard to say with Jimbo, because he was having promise notes, and then his team basically kind of. And
I'm not saying like Norvell's allowing, but I think Norvell's he's in a tough situation, man, because
100%.
He inherited this roster again of guys that I think, you know, they do have this sense of entitlement. They're better than they think they're better than they really are. He's got to try to soothe these egos. He's got to manage that. He can't start pulling off Paul Bryant. I'm going to run everybody off this team right now because it is a first season. So he's in a really tough situation. I hope he's not doing anything now that's going to prevent him from – because, he can get all these new guys, these grad transfers come in, but there's still going to be 50 guys in that locker room that experienced all this season. And what sort of credibility are you going to have, you know, with a 2-month reset between your bowl game and then coming back for spring football? And the last one point I want to make, and you can get back on your heater here, Cor. I just wonder, back to the point I was trying to make about him talking to Wes Durham and saying all these things in their production meeting about this team needs to face adversity, this team needs to hit rock bottom, and then we're criticizing the way he's game planning and calling plays. Like, I wonder if this is kind of like his way maybe of running guys off, of just like, hey, man, this is the play we're going to run. Like, we're going to keep dropping back. We're going to play this game. We're going to try to win. If you can't find a way to block the guy in front of you, if you can't find a way to get to the quarterback, if you can't find a way to tackle the ball carrier, if you can't find a way to stay within the zip code of the guy you're covering, then hey, man, it's not going to work out here. Then you're going to have to take I think like this is all like the way, maybe this is like the long game of him still calling plays this aggressively, still doing these sort of things to send a message to these guys that, hey, like, you have 2 clear paths to take. One is out of town. One is to look in the mirror, figure out, and realize that, yeah, man, you're not that good right now, and you do have to prepare better, and you do have to work harder. That's what I hope. That's what I hope, because he's going to have to fix the guys that he has on this roster, because I don't know how many guys he can recruit that are high-level prep kids. I don't know how many ready, great transfers are going to want to pour into here, because, yeah, man, you can sell hope and you can sell, come back home. But, yeah, man, you're selling it to you're coming home to what? You're coming home to like a 3-8 team, a 3-9 team.
Yeah, maybe if they're lucky.
You know.
Yeah, it's dire times here. I want to say they can't get worse, but they seem to get worse every week, and that's the issue. That's the problem. Is the team is getting worse this year, and I don't know the reason for it. I don't know. I do think that these guys can coach, and I do think that when it's 2 different coaching staffs that have the same kids getting blown out like this, Well, maybe it's not the coaches. Willie's, what's Willie, 3-1?
Watch out. Here come the Owls.
Yeah, Willie's 3-1. Mike Norvell was get Cotton Bowls before he got here.
Jimbo's Jimbo A&M's like 6th right now, or maybe 5th.
Yeah. And so those are the last three coaches at Florida State. Jimbo's whatever he is at A&M, the 6th in the country. Willie's 3-1, first year program. They probably had a culture problem, right? Didn't they get rid of their coach, or did their coach leave?
No, Lane Kiffin, man. Lane Kiffin,
oh yeah. So he did take over. Okay, yeah. He took over a winning
really
program. That is different.
Yeah.
But he's 3-1, and then this guy we know can coach. We know he's got a track record, just like Willie had it. Willie's track record was a little bit more checkered, but still he had a track record.
That's your point, though, Corey. Like at Memphis, he is recruiting kids that are from the greater Memphis area. Like kids that are going to Memphis are happy to be there, because if they didn't go to Memphis, they were going to go Division II. They're going to go FCS. So you do have those kids that are super excited.
Well, they might have pride in their team, in their school, in their football program, and it just. But that almost that's. It's too hard to even quantify and articulate. Everything you guys were feeling on Saturday is the same thing I'm feeling now. I still haven't been able to articulate, and I had a 5-hour drive after the game on Saturday night to try to really put it and get the thoughts right in my head, and I couldn't. I still can't. You can tell I'm just babbling, and I don't know what the problem is. I do think at some point we have to say these players. These players are done. They're toast. But churning the roster, what are you going to win with a bunch of freshmen and sophomore next year? They are young. They play a lot of young guys, but you don't see a lot of young guys making splash plays where you're like, man, that guy's going to be a stud.
No.
That guy's a superstar written all over him. Your best player is Asante Samuel. He ain't going to be here next year. Jordan Travis is your best player on offense. Who knows if he'll be upright next year? Tamarian Terry's not going to be here next year. Marvin's not going to be here next year. So it's very little to hope. There's very little hope. I get that when you're looking forward from a roster standpoint, from a talent standpoint. I guess, though, my point going back to the Memphis thing was Memphis and Louisville have similar talent. Louisville has more talent. I am quite confident that 2019 Memphis team would have beaten the brakes off Louisville this year, or at least beaten them. Put up 45 points on them. I'm confident of that. They had that Memphis offense rolling. It was a juggernaut. And he did that with not good players. And he did that against Penn State when there was a vast discrepancy at the line of scrimmage. They still put up 40 on Penn State. So there is reason to hope. And there's reason to think, okay, this guy can turn it around where even if he's not recruiting 4- and 5-star talent, his 2- and 3-stars can beat the 2- and 3-stars at Virginia, at Duke, at NC State, at Louis. None of those are recruiting juggernauts. So his coaching acumen and his ability to coach offense should translate to some wins at this level, even if he's not getting 5-star recruits. The problem is this is Florida State, and that's what we want. We want 5-star recruits. We don't want to get excited about 2-star Johnny. He's a diamonds in the rough. And you cannot beat Clemson with 2-star Johnnies. You can't beat Florida with 2-star Johnnies. You can't. You can go 7-5, and you can not get blown out by Pitt and Louisville, but you can't win big at a place like Florida State with 3-star kids. And right now, that's Florida State's basically ceiling recruiting. They're not getting. What do they got? The 86th ranked receiver in the country and the 100th ranked receiver in the country coming next year. Maybe those guys turn into superstars. I don't know. But I know where the top 5 guys in the state of Florida are going that are wide receivers, and it ain't to Florida State. And that's the problem you have. You got to have some success to get those big guys to want to come. And you can't have success with the dudes on this football team. They don't know how to have success. They beat North Carolina, and there was a lot of guys. So I'm not going to even name a name. I'm not going to single anybody out. Don't even want you to look at it. They had their first big win in 3 years. Great win, great night. And what did some of the team decide they needed to do with their time on Saturday night? Talk crap to former players on Twitter. Where are you now? I don't hear you now. Why aren't they saying anything now? It's like, buddy, are you saying those same tweets now after getting smacked in the face 2 weeks in a row? I haven't seen any of those tweets on my timeline from current players asking where the former players are. It's like the audacity to win one big game and then think you've made it, and you're going to go talk smack to players who I don't even know the history of some of this beef with former players and current players on Twitter. But I do know that the former players had a lot more success than these guys did. And what does that say about a mindset of a team that you win a big game, a close game, great game, best game you've won in 3 or 4 years, and you're on Twitter 3 hours later beating your chest about it? Only then to get outscored 87-33 by two podunk teams in the ACC. Two teams that were both coming off 4-game losing streaks. One team just lost 45-3. And you go out and get hammered and embarrassed on your home field. But hey, you got to tweet 2 weeks ago. 2020, I'm an old man. Get off my lawn. Don't like anything.
Over-unders. Let's give some winners some free Zaxby's and maybe a T-shirt or two.
I would like to apologize. I'm not this guy. I am actually... Brady's team played some baseball on Sunday, his last travel ball tournament of the year. They didn't play all that well, but they did win a silver bracket championship. Yeehaw. And it was fun. It was a good day at the park. And it was just an overall good day. Nice day. It felt great up here in Georgia. Nice fall weather. I felt good. I was in a good mindset, good place. Then I listened to then me and you started this show. And I've fallen off a cliff, and I sound like I need to be in a straitjacket.
It felt like I've never felt as bleak. It literally, I tweeted it, it felt like Wake Forest 2006. It was that ugly. Everything was that.
And ugly. I would take contention with. I would take issue with Norvell saying that they need to find bottom. Like he's telling West Durham that they need to find bottom. Hey man, they lost 52-10. To Miami with their coach watching from the couch because he had COVID. Couldn't that have been bottom? Why do you got to keep digging? That was the bottom.
Over-unders. Let's give away free food.
Sorry.
And a T-shirt. LaDamian Webb, rushing yards, 42.5. We both said over. We were both incorrect.
Well, Gene knew something we didn't. He knew that they were going to go to the pass-happy attack, the air raid.
LaDamian Webb had 28 rushing yards. Jordan Travis completion.
Wait. How many attempts?
Let me get back there. He had 7 carries. 7 carries,
so your best running back had 7 carries. Anyway, go ahead.
Jordan Travis completion percentage 55.5. We both said over. We were correct. He was 11 of 18. It's like 60-something%, low 61%.
We nailed that. We nailed like John King. We nailed that thing.
I did the math prior, so don't give me too much credit. I really need to do some sort of like math camp and just simple stuff that I'm just so terrible and embarrassingly bad at.
I mean, it's in the high 50s, right? 11 out of 18.
Yeah.
We didn't crush that, but no. we got it.
Pokey
they only dropped 1, right?
No, we'll get to that in a second. Pokey Wilson catches 3.5. You said over. I said under. I was correct.
Man.
FSU drop passes pro football focus. 1.5 was the over-under. We both said under. We're both incorrect. They actually were credited with 2 drops.
Who?
Pokey, I think it was Pokey and Ja'Kai Douglas. I don't even remember. But that's
I was wondering about that. So the Ja'Kai Douglas play, that was one of the best throws Jordan Travis has made in his career. You remember that? He rolls to his left.
I don't remember.
It was in the first quarter.
It's disgusting how I remember nothing, Corey. Really.
It might have been after Pitt had scored after the interception. In the very first play, they roll Jordan Travis to the left. He stops, and he throws about a 45-yard ball post pattern on the other side of the field to Ja'Kai Douglas near the Pitt sideline. And it looks like it just goes through his hands. Like it is a perfect ball, and it goes right through his hands. But I never saw a replay to know that for sure. But it looked like a perfect throw.
Yeah, it was literally, it was first play after the interception.
Yeah, because I actually liked that. I was like,
Douglas.
I liked that they gave him a chance again. Maybe do it with somebody besides Ja'Kai Douglas. Maybe the number 5 guy. But what do I know?
So drop passes 1.5. We both said under. We were both incorrect. Florida State sacks on the Pitt quarterback 2.5. I said over because I'm stupid. You said under.
Yeah.
It was 1 sack.
Who got it?
Fabian Lovett.
There you go, Fabian.
And then total points scored.
Love dog. Sorry.
Total points scored 50. We both said over. We're both correct. We are
that.
even, Steven, for the week, so you continue to be +2 for the season. Congrats to our winners for the week. Do go on to warchant.com, Tribal Council, for instructions. Noel Holla, 6 for 6. He aced it, or she aced it. 6 of 6. Nailed all of it. And then a runners-up, BC Noles 16, FSU 2 times, Renegade with the E and the A. He used numbers instead of letters. It's cool. And then Eagle _ Bear. I think you're a second-time winner. Congrats. Stop hogging everything, man. Let some other people win some stuff. I'm kidding. It's fine. So Noel Holla is the grand prize winner. He gets a T-shirt and free food, and then the other folks get free food. So that's pretty darn good consolation. We're going to speak to your head football coach at noon. Corey's going to live transcribe it, rather, and I think we'll probably also get Kenny Dillingham and Adam Fuller. And, we'll do another show tomorrow, and Corey's
I'll be in a better mood.
You will be. Yeah, you'll be in a better mood. I know you will be.
I'll be in a better mood. It'll be behind me. I'll be in a better mood. Can talk about the Falcons' big win.
There we go.
They're climbing the playoff ranking. They're 3-1 under Raheem Morris. Things are looking great. Talk about Jameis's big win back in Tampa. On Sunday night. A lot of good stuff happening there. And I apologize. I had to get a lot off my chest. I had to vent. I had to rant a little bit. Sometimes
we should have done this while you were driving back up Saturday night. Like, probably just got it.
I literally could have taught for 5 hours. I probably still could. I could have taught for 5 hours the whole time. And what about this? And what about that? You got a false start on 4th and 1 when they're about to have 12 men on the field.
Stop. We got to go.
Sorry. Anyway, sorry, folks. I'm in a good mood. I promise. It's great to be. Hey, and I'm happy we get to watch college football. Who would have thought? 4 months ago, if you'd have told me
we'd make it this far,
I'd be like, November. Absolutely. It would. No matter what happens, no matter what it looks like, I'm gonna be excited about it. And then we had to watch this product, but still, I'm trying to find the good things in life. I'm trying to figure. I'm just trying to turn over a leaf and be a happier person.
There we go.
And so I'm happy. I'm fine. I'll be much better tomorrow. We'll have a grand old time.
There we go. He's Corey Amazon. Thanks so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.